What's that?
Hey there, guys. What's up?
This thing's weird, 2B. Let's kill it.
Wait, what? No. Good idea. No!
NieR Automata is a game that's been on my back burner since it came out. I knew I wanted to play this collaboration between director Yoko Taro and Platinum Games when it was first announced. I felt that this project would be a good fit. Yoko Taro's Drakengard and NieR series have always interested me, but the gameplay and visuals never really did much for me. Conversely, I've always been a Platinum Games fan, but they've struggled to make games with a mass appeal. While I love their approach to game making, their style doesn't match up with many gamers' expectations of a AAA game. Each of these developers' weaknesses have been made up for the other's strengths. At first glance, NieR Automata looks like some weeb bullshit aesthetically, and the gameplay seems challenging, not exactly a recipe for success in modern gaming. However, despite the seemingly unattractive elements to a Western audience, NieR Automata is a success. NieR Automata was released in 2017, and it was released on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. I'm playing the PS4 version. Let's dive in. The story of NieR takes place long after the apocalypse. Machines have taken over the Earth, and mankind has created androids to help them destroy the machines. The androids belong to an organization called Yorha, which is tasked by humanity with wiping out the machines on Earth. The opening act has our heroine 2B going out on a mission to destroy a giant mech. After a long battle, the only way to destroy the behemoth is for 2B and her companion 9S to self-destruct. Before the blast, their personalities and data are uploaded to their Yorha satellite base, and 2B and 9S awaken to new bodies. This karmatic theme of life, death, and rebirth pervades both NieR's tale as well as its gameplay. 2B and 9S receive orders to go back down planetside to help with the human resistance on Earth. 2B and 9S receive a request from the resistance to clear out some machines and discover a new type of android called Adam, made from machines. Upon his defeat, Adam begets Eve. These twins serve as the antagonists to 2B and 9S throughout the first part of the story.
Brother? Why do we have to wear undergarments? It's such a hassle.
The records claim humans covered their crotches as they went about their business. Revealing one's genitals was seen as problematic. So just be quiet and wear them already.
Okay.
As I played through the story, I started getting this nagging sensation that there were a lot of things missing from it. The biggest reason for me to get away from anime and contemporary Japanese storytelling is that I don't like how narrative is structured generally. It often feels too obtuse without addressing major plot issues. Exposition seems to be there for its own sake, instead of serving the plot. Once you defeat the final boss of NieR, you get prompted to play again as 9S. That's where many of the holes from the first plot begin to be filled. I wasn't jazzed about the prospect of playing as 9S though. I thought, I've already got my best girl. Why do I need to play as lame 9S? Just look at him. He's wearing knee socks, with boots, and shorts. Misgivings aside, once I started my playthrough with 9S, I thoroughly enjoyed 9S as a character, and I realized how critical he is to 2B and the story. What is especially cool about the story are the moments that you get to see the same scene from two perspectives. Check out this scene from the point of view of 2B and then 9S.
Hacking in.
NieR has a hacking ability which enriches the backstory of certain bosses. This extra dialogue is welcome, and I really like how much thought that's been put into his story. Once you beat the NieR route, you discover that this whole story is a prelude to the next chapter in NieR Automata. I won't be talking about the rest of the story, because you should experience it for yourself. However, I would like to address some very cerebral themes of the story. The motif of the karmatic cycle, life, death, and rebirth, is very unique in the medium of video games and sci-fi. When you first wake up as 2B on the bunker, after your first big battle, you realize that the structure is one gigantic circle, resembling the infinite loop that you'll be playing through across NieR's story. Once you go back down to Earth, you struggle to stay alive amongst the hordes of machines. If you die, you are respawned back into these vending machines and you restart. This is indeed how the story plays out as well. You start your journey as 2B, You come to the end of the journey, and now you play as NieR. This infinite loop is an effective way to tell a story, and it plays back into the themes of not only the story, but the gameplay. The gameplay of NieR Automata is unlike that of any other game I've played. 1 minute it's a side-scrolling hack and slash, the next a top-down shooter, the following a twin-stick shooter, and then something akin to Zone of the Enders. What's so exceptional about the gameplay is how seamlessly it shifts in style. The game moves from idea to idea without any issue or explanation. The bulk of the experience is a hack and slash though. 2B and NieR have their own unique styles. 2B's skills are like a traditional hack and slash. She has a light and heavy attack. 2B has a variety of weapons to choose from, and each combination is broken down into small swords, large swords, spears, and combat bracers. She can assign each weapon to either the square or triangle button. NieR controls a little differently. He can only have one weapon at a time mapped to the square button. His secondary attack is to hack into enemies using triangle. This opens a minigame that, if completed, will allow you to slow down or completely destroy an enemy. Beyond their differences, there are gameplay universals throughout the various genres in NieR Automata. R2 dodges, but unlike other Platinum games, this isn't a free chance to land damage. You still need to know when to keep dodging and attack or back off. The pod is a helper robot with the ability to lay down suppressive fire and deal heavy damage with a special attack. There are 3 types of pods to choose from with different types of attacks. All in all, this sounds like a lot, and for a moment each time I started the game, I would forget to push one of the many buttons. This has been one of the minor critiques of NieR Automata, the controls. I don't agree. While the gameplay is complex, it isn't esoteric. My advice would be, push all the buttons. There is an upgrading system for all the weapons, and there's an upgrading system for your character as well. Then there are plugins, which are basically buffs. Since 2B and NieR are androids, the plugins use up their memory space. Their OS takes up a certain amount of space, and with the rest you can give special attributes for attack, defense, and support. Another cool thing about the gameplay is how NieR Automata handles death. When you die, you're transported back to one of these vending machine teleporters. At least, I think they're vending machines. From there you have to retrieve your previous shell to get your experience points back. Of course, the comparisons to the Souls games is inevitable, but this choice is much more purposeful. Death serves the narrative. Each time you die, a new 2B comes out of the vending machine. Her mission continues regardless of her own demise. Then you start to wonder, every time you fast travel through these vending machines, is the 2B that goes into the teleporter the same 2B that comes out? This singular choice serves the narrative superbly, relating back to the ideas of the karmatic loop that all the characters in this game seem to be trapped in, by making you see that the entire game, and maybe life and time itself, are on a loop. Now that my mind has collapsed in on itself with all this armchair philosophy, let's talk about the pretty. NieR Automata is a looker, but it isn't without some issues. While I like the overall look of the game, NieR suffers from some low-res textures in the environments, and some minor frame rate hitches when going in between zones in the world. Onto the good stuff. From the first moments of battle, you'll experience a visual treat. There are constant particle effects and explosions that give an excellent feedback to the player. As 2B slices and dices the enemy machines, you the player feel like a mechanized badass. One minor issue that I have with this is sometimes the screen gets so busy I can't tell when to dodge. Honestly though, if you've gotten a few hits in, you should probably dodge and get out of the way. The frame rate is consistent and never dips during even the most hectic battles. There are some nice graphical touches as well, with reflective surfaces looking particularly smooth. The color palette in NieR is really special. While on the Yorha satellite, everything is in grayscale. Once on Earth, you're treated to the deep greens of forests, as well as washed out oranges and tans of deserts. I get a strange sense of deja vu while playing NieR Automata. Is it just me, or do these color choices feel reminiscent of Metal Gear Solid 2? The world design is another excellent example of how to make environmental storytelling. The decaying world feels abandoned, and yet once inhabited. Nature steadily reclaiming this world, and the player gets the impression that mankind is long gone. The enemy designs are really cool as well. While the enemies are threatening, they're also kind of cute. The larger mechs are more menacing, with gnarly chainsaws for arms and gnashing teeth. All of the character designs are well done. The transition of the concept art to the in-game engine are excellent. 2B is exceptionally cool looking. The way her attack animations have been rendered make her seamlessly dash, slash, and spin, with movement being of the utmost importance. NieR's attacks are less flashy, but I do enjoy his style. While NieR isn't as visually arresting in combat, his hacking sequences are cool. NieR gets transported to an arena, and he has to defeat all the enemies on the screen. The clean lines and bright colors are easy to read as you play. NieR has such a deft hand when it comes to this interplay of presentation, story, and gameplay. As I played these hacking sequences, I realized that these were the same enemies, put into a more simplistic visual style. For instance, if you hack a weak enemy, you only have to dodge one thing. If you hack a boss, You'll have 10 or 15 enemies to take out on the board before you can finally attack the main opponent. This is a mirror image of what's happening on the battlefield, except it's been re-envisioned. This leads back to the themes of an infinite loop, and in this case, it's the gameplay loop. Even when NieR is presenting something new, it still fits within the overarching theme of this cycle. There is a third character to play as, but let's leave that as a surprise. The mechs you fly around in during the bullet hell sections of the game are really cool too. They transform from a jet mode to a bipedal mode, and both look sick. The architecture in NieR Automata is varied. Probably my favorite location is a castle midway through the first playthrough. This castle is huge, and it feels similar to something out of Shadow of the Colossus. The sound department is just as rich as the rest of NieR Automata. The sound separation is helpful, but most of the time you won't have enemies get the drop on you. During combat, the sounds of swords and explosions all have a low-end quality to them. One of the things that I was surprised by is how tinny the pod's machine guns sound. This is probably because you're constantly using it in battle, and a sound that was too overpowering may diminish the player's enjoyment of the overall sonic experience. I really enjoy the special attention that has been given to the ambient sounds of the world. There are subtle choices like birds chirping or waves crashing in the distance that brings the immersion level up. Each zone feels distinct with regards to environmental sound. This adds a lot to the overall character of the game. NieR Automata has one of the best video game soundtracks ever. Composer Keiichi Okabe has made a marathon of a soundtrack here. Okabe made the soundtracks for both NieR and Drakengard 3, and you can feel that he was trying to outdo his previous works here. This soundtrack clocks in at over 6.5 hours. While listening to this OST, one track in particular struck me with the uncanny feeling of deja vu. The track is called Alien Manifestation. The pattering keys, mixed with the lush violin arrangements and the deep, chugging percussion, mix into this strange, exhilarating melodic number that is truly a tempest of emotion. This track might remind you of another famous sci-fi thriller, Ghost in the Shell's theme, Making of Cyborg by Kenji Kawai. Give a listen to both. This vocal style is a Korean and Japanese folk genre called minyo. I highlight this track in particular because it shows not only how varied the soundtrack is, with everything from synth-heavy tracks to full orchestras and choirs, but also just how much intent went into making the music. I think it would be naive to think that Okabe's Alien Manifestation isn't an homage to Kenji Kawai's work. This isn't the only example of similarities the soundtrack shares with other notable OSTs. An acute observer of music will notice more similarities as they listen. Much like the gameplay and story, the music plays into this idea that we've all been here before, but we're not sure when or why. Not only does the soundtrack do an excellent job of setting the mood, but each track has stems based on what is going on in the game. Basically, each track is broken into a quiet version, a medium version, and a dynamic version. These stems do a great job of setting the mood and giving the player feedback based on their interactions with the world. On top of all of this work is a full chiptune soundtrack to accompany all of the hacking segments as you play as 9S. This is an hour-long remix of the soundtrack that's excellent. If you need even more NieR Automata music, there is an album with unreleased music that was not used in the game. The care and meticulousness of this soundtrack is what makes it stand out when you compare it to other games' OSTs. NieR Automata's soundtrack gives life to the lifeless, and it helps endear characters to the player, making for a memorable experience. The voice acting in NieR Automata is well directed. You can play the game in either English or Japanese, although you may want to play the game for the first time in English if your Japanese isn't the best. There's a lot of dialogue during combat, and there was no way I could read subtitles and play the game at the same time. I'll let you decide what's best for you.
I have to repair him. Pod, get me staunching gel and logic virus vaccines. Then access the—
Inadvisable. The subject's vital signs are too poor to attempt field repair in
Shut up!
current...
Just do what I say!
2B, just go.
You shut up too.
I also enjoyed the filters the machines' voices were put through. Their voices are kind of non-threatening for bloodthirsty killing machines. NieR Automata can be found affordably. It recently got a price drop, and it can commonly be found for $25 to $30 new. That is more than a fair price for the amount of content you get in this game. Additionally, there was no story DLC locked behind a paywall. Some clarity needs to be given to the multiple playthroughs and endings that NieR Automata has become famous for. You don't actually have to play the whole game 4 times, if you don't want to. 2B's story is a full playthrough. 9S's story is about half of 2B's. Then the last playthrough is a whole new story, which will unlock one of 2 endings. Once you've completed one of those 2 endings, you unlock Chapter Select, from which you can go back to the finale, choose the other option, and unlock the other ending. And the true ending. That's not it though. There are 26 endings in total, but these are more like gags or additional content. I was not excited to play through this game so many times, as I had been led to believe was required. Don't let the multiple playthroughs dissuade you. They really aren't repeating content. It took me 22 hours to beat NieR, unlocking the first 5 endings. The difficulty in NieR Automata is not too high on normal. You will die, but the game isn't too unforgiving. The only thing is, occasionally, you can't avoid dying. There is no invincibility when you get hit, so enemies can juggle you and kill you pretty quick. This is usually very circumstantial though. Don't let all the flashy combos intimidate you. NieR Automata is an exceptional game that owes little of its success to ad campaigns or hype from big gaming websites. Word of mouth made this game a success, and that's because NieR Automata is a great game. That's it for March Mecha Madness 2018. I really enjoyed this year's selection of games. There wasn't any stinkers or frustration playing any of them. If you've watched all these videos, I mean, I would definitely play all 4 of these games. Horizon's great, NieR's great, Binary Domain's just silly, and Enslaved, is a great, historical perspective on sort of gaming in this post-apocalyptic sort of setting that we're all very preoccupied with. I hope you guys enjoyed this year's March Mecha Madness. We'll do it again next year. This is Zach with Tanuki Games. Please remember that a like, a comment, or a subscribe means a lot to me, and of course, the channel. Enjoy.
I don't imagine that this is going to end well. The black box. It's ready.
Right.
Requesting destruction of enemy hostiles via black box reaction.
Request accepted.
2B, it was an honor to fight with you. Truly.
The honor was mine.